Hey everybody, Bill Utenage bringing you a training Thursday. And so today's training, what I want to focus on is the database. Now, you guys, if you've been around me for a minute, you understand and know that I believe that your database is the most important asset outside of yourself in your business. And so what I want to focus on today is talking about how to make sure that we have our database set up that we know without a doubt who the most people that have the most value to your database are. Now, you hear me talk about client categorization, all of things, it's sorting our database, it's all, all of those things. But what I want to do is using the handy dandy whiteboard today is kind of walk that through and really be thinking about this in a different way. Because what happens is so many times I see service-based business owners, and really, to be honest with you, most all business owners, right? I don't care. You could probably even be brick and mortar. This all falls into the same. But really, if you're a service provider, is people that will say, "Oh yeah, Bill, I've got a database," and so they have this database, and they just basically it's just a kind of a dumping station where they just like put everyone into, if they actually put everyone into it, and then it's just kind of like I'm like, okay, so you have them in there. Who in your database is most likely to refer you? And that's usually what I hear is nothing. It's crickets. There's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, who are the people that are referring you and are more likely to refer you? And when you don't know that, that's an issue, because what happens is that there's literally leads setting inside of your database right now. If I came into through this screen and I went into your business and got into your database and looked at this and used what I'm getting ready to teach you and show you in here, and that there's going to be people in there that are ready to refer you if you just would know who they were and then start having a communication with them. And the challenge of it is that most of the time is that we're too busy out looking around, right, under bushes and looking for the new people that don't know us, don't like us, and don't trust us, that have never done business with us, and convincing them to do business with us when we have a group of people, okay, and especially if you've been in business for very long at all, that are there and are ripe and ready for you just to show them the way in order to do that. So that's what we're going to dig into today on today's training. So what we're going to look at is there's basically three pillars inside of your database that I look at. So we want to keep it simple. We can call it three buckets. We can call it three pillars. I don't care what you call it. The first one is that we want to make sure that, so anyone in our database, the first one is going to be what I call our C category. Okay. These are the people. Okay. The C's are what we call our Mets. And these are people that, just as the word says, I have met them. It could be at a networking. It could be at maybe your kids' softballs, gymnastics meet. They're seeing the same families because you guys have the same common interests in the kids and all of these things. And these are people that already know you. What we're not putting in here is we're putting buying mailing lists and doing all that. If you want to do cold outreach, that's fine. That's not what I teach. And so if you're inside of my world, so this isn't probably the place for you, because we're not. That's not what we're doing. Is we're going to be connecting with people that already know us. Okay, it's just going to increase the odds of us actually being able to do business with them again, or having them to refer. So our first category that's going to be our C category. So everyone that's not a client, that has not done business with you or has referred you. Okay, simple way to think about that. But you have their contact information. Second one, right? Second category is going to be what I call our B clients. Okay, so these are actually in here. These are clients. These are what we're going to call our Mets. Okay, so this B category is everyone that has ever done business with you and or has referred you. Is going to go in here. Now, you may say, well, wait a second. What do you mean they haven't done business with me, but they may have referred? Yes. I know in my real estate businesses that I had people that would refer us that never did business with us. And that would be through certain companies, their HR departments. We had a big university where we were at, and so we were involved in some of the colleges there, and worked with their incoming faculty that would come in and help them find a place, and other companies that that we worked with, and the HR people. They never did business with us. We built a relationship with them. So don't overlook that part of it. They don't actually have to be a client. But if they refer you, we're going to put them into this. We're going to call them a client for namesake of us being able to identify them that they have referred us, okay, or done business. So these are going to be our B's. Now, our third and final category is what we're going to call, these are our A's, okay? Now, our A's are also going to be clients, not necessarily all of them, because you may have, again, what I talked about over here is that we may have people in that HR department that end up sending us multiple people a year. They were A's, right? They were A, to me, they were A clients. And that's where we put them. We just put them inside of this group. And the reason being is that I want to keep it as simple as possible. Okay. Because anything that's complex is not going to be get done. Because we could go, well, they're not really a client, so we're going to call them this, A minus category or whatever, right? And then all of a sudden we've got 9 different categories for all these things. Too complex isn't going to get done. We're going to keep it simple. Okay. 3 categories. That's all we need. People that haven't done business with us that we know, people that have done business with us or referred us, people that have done business with us multiple times. And what I'm usually going to look at that is that over a 12-month period. Okay. So meaning is that they have done business with us 2 or more times in the last 12 months, or they've referred us. Now, if you're in insurance, if you're in financial services, because you may be thinking is like, well, wait a second. If they're a past, if they're a past client, they're not using my services. That's where it's a little bit different. So just to make sure that you guys are understanding is that for you, this is going to be all your current clients, because more than likely now you could be going back and reaching out to people that left you for whatever reason. In real estate or in mortgage, where there's not recurring, right? Meaning is that someone buys a house, they're not going to turn around and buy another one next month. Now they might if they're an investor, but likelihood of that is, so when you hear me say past clients in the real estate and the mortgage world, is like they've done business with us and they're a past client. I pretty much call them all clients because that's how I want them to think about themselves, that they're not past, meaning as I've forgotten about them, is that they're still a client to me, even though they're not under any kind of contract with me. Okay. Hope that makes sense. So for for insurance, and for those of you that are in financial services, right, these are going to be our current clients, or anyone that, again, you may have someone that refers you. You may have a connection at an HR department as an insurance agent that people that refer you that maybe don't have their insurance held with you. Okay. So it works the same way. Not overthinking it, right? Just figuring out, hey, which 3, this is the big one, is that they're doing it multiple times. So if you're financial services and you've got a client that's referring you, a couple, 2 to 3 people, a year, right? They're going to be A's. And if we look at this whole thing and you think about this, and this is something I got from one of my mentors, is that if we start thinking about our database, okay, one, we know it's a living, breathing organism, and I keep knocking this microphone around, is I want you to think about it in a sense, it's really kind of like a conveyor belt, okay? So basically what we do is that we have our database and we have everyone in these 3 categories. And then what we look at this and we kind of go, okay, these are the people that are Mets, these people that are C's. They know who we are. We've had a conversation with them, right? We've gotten permission to communicate with them. Okay. We're not spamming them. Then what we want to do is I want to take these people, as many as I possibly could, and I want to move them to a B, right? So they go from just knowing me to going to either referring me or doing business with me. How do I do that? Well, we do that through the communication around the 36 Connect program that I have, is building value, helping these people, right? All the things that I teach and we talk about, and then going, oh, hey, now we moved them into here. Now what we're doing is now we're spending more time with folks, because in order, then what I'm wanting to do is then I want to move them here, right? So you see this, they go from not doing business with us or referring us to becoming a client and or referring us, then we move them. Our goal is to move them. Now, this typically is going to be probably our smaller category out of these three, just so you know, because sometimes what people do is they're like, well, Bill, I've only got out of 100 people, let's say, in my database is I've only got 5 that have done this. That's okay. It's okay. It's typically going to be, this is probably typically going to be your bigger category. If you're new in the business, in the industry, this probably might be your biggest one. Okay. But if you're in a year, 2 or 3 in this, this is probably going to be your biggest category. These two might be close, depending on if you're networking, if you're setting that goal of adding 1 person a day to your database. And then the question comes up is like, okay, well, wait a second. Okay, we're going to move a C to a B to an A. Now, where do we move our A's to? Where do we move them to? Where we move them to is basically is that how do we, because these are our advocates, how do we, right, get them to refer us more? That's really it. Or they're going to do business with us, multiple times, depending on your industry. Okay. But we always want to we're always moving. And so the A's are then what's going to happen is they're going to refer us. And then that new person, right, eventually comes into here, right, as a C, because they referred us. They may have not done business with us yet. Okay. Once they go into here and they do business, you can kind of see, right, this is kind of where this goes. Now, my graphic, don't look where I'm going, oh, an A is going to end up moving to a C. No, this is going to be the referral. Okay. I'm going to write that in there just to make it clear. Okay. So this is the referral, right, that's going to travel, that's going to come into here. Now that referral could come into here. It could be, I meet with somebody, and immediately they're like, yep, I want to, I'm looking to sell my home, or I need insurance. And right away, they're going to start working with you. It may work that way. If not, then we're just going to move them. We're going to move them just to the appropriate category. And then whatever we move them to, our goal is through our communication with them of bringing them value. And do you see where this becomes just kind of like a conveyor belt? Because we have this database, we have this done, we have these categories that we've designed. And now we just set up our communication that we know that the most communication that we're going to spend is here. This is where most of our communication should be focused. Why? Because these people are doing business with us multiple times, or they're referring us multiple times. You're not going to spend as much time here, right? Again, because this is the 80-20. Like, this is the 20% is where we want to be focusing on. Not that we don't focus on here as well. We do. We just have to understand that we only have so much time. This is why the beauty of when you do your database this way, when you sort this out and you actually understand this, then it's like, okay, we're going to look at this. And so then we're going to move this way, right? So then we're going to have, this is our more, we're going to have more here. And I don't want to put less in here, but this is where we're cultivating and we're reaching out, we're having those conversations. And what's going to happen is that the people that are in your C category, you're going to have some that are just, you're going to connect with. There's going to be a synergy inside of there. And let's say that I'm an insurance agent. I may have connected with a mortgage lender and met them somewhere. And then it's like, hey, a great synergy partner as an insurance agent, right, is mortgage. And so it's like, hey, I'm building that and being strategic about it. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, we're building a business. So it's just like building a house. It's like, got to have a great foundation. We got to have a blueprint. We got to know kind of where we're going. We got to know what materials we're going to use or we're not going to use, depending on where we're building our house. I live in South Florida. A lot of our houses are built out of concrete. Why? Because hurricanes come here. Stick-built houses don't hold up as good. So our business is the same thing. And so we got to start looking at this from a strategic standpoint. And so many, I think what happens with business owners or commission salespeople is that, they are just used to going, I've got a database. I get referrals. The issue of it is that they're so inconsistent because it just so happens, like, right, a broke clock is right twice a day. And so it's one of those things where we want to take control of this. And when we build out a system and we know I can immediately go into my database and say, I want to pull a list of every one of my A clients. Boom, you pull that up and there it is. And I want to send them this thing, or invite them to this event, that I'm going to do. Hey, this is for all my C category of people that I don't am not as deep with, and that could look. You see how this makes this so much more effective in doing it when you got everybody just piled in one big giant bucket and you're digging through, right? It's like a duffel bag, right? Old time duffel bag. And you put something at the bottom and then everything else stacks up. I think about it because coming, out of the military is like the duffel bag, the thing now I've got to pull everything out of it to get to the thing to the bottom. Okay. What we do, and that's what we're doing with our database. Most people are doing with their database. And so I want you not to do that with your database. So I want you to set it up. I want you to start taking control of it. And then this way, we're going to start being able to generate more consistent leads, more consistent referrals out of this because we know who we're going to target to, right? We can shine a light on that, like, oh, here are those people. And then we start looking inside of this and kind of going, okay, who's my B in there that I need to be spending more time with, because whether we have a better relationship with them, and it's always a relationship thing. We're not going to be best friends with everyone in our database. When I left our real estate business, we had over 1,000 people in our database that we marketed to on obviously at minimum. When I left 3 years ago, after I sold my share of my business to my partners, is we were connecting with our database 42 to 46 times a year. And that was through all the things that I teach, right? That's through a direct mail piece, email, text, calls, right? Notes, events, all of those things. Because what I wanted to do is wanted to make sure that we were top of mind for them, and we were bringing them value. We were helping them solve problems in their world outside of the industry that we were in. And so this is why it works. So this is why when people tell me, or I hear it a lot, I see it, I'm in different groups and people will say, oh, well, it's just, you just can't build, you can't count on referrals. No, I will agree. You can't count on referrals when you're just throwing everybody in a duffel bag. And then you're hoping at some point in time that they happen to refer you because you sent them a Christmas card. Then yes, you're exactly right. I'm just telling you, after doing this for 17 years, is year over year. And if I wanted to increase what the number of transactions that we wanted to do, what did? We just added a number. We just added it to our database. When we knew that we were going to get, out of every 8 to 10 people in our database, we knew that we were going to get a closed transaction about that. So think about it. Let's just take the higher number at the 10. If I had 1,000, I'm going to do 100 deals. If I market it, if I do it right, if I have it set up and I'm bringing value, and just because you have 1,000 people in your database, don't hear what I'm not saying. Just because you have 1,000 people in your database doesn't necessarily you're going to do that. And that 10 to 1 that was in real estate. Okay. But I think you can take that into insurance. The thing with real estate is it's a higher transaction, right? Amount than it is, in insurance. It depends on where you're at. In mortgage, close. It works closely to these same numbers as well. Right? Because the average dollar transaction is going to be higher than maybe writing an auto policy or something like that. But the point that I make in this is that works. You can start seeing more consistency inside of this. And this is why it's so important that we keep adding people to it, because for every person, right, knows on average 250 people. So when I had a database to say of 1,000 people, that's an actual reach of 25,000 people. If my math is correct, 1,000 times 250 is 25,000 potential people. And if I'm bringing value and communicating with my database, especially out of these two categories, it just works. It's not rocket science. None of this is rocket. I'm not that smart. And I didn't even create this. This is something I learned from my mentors. And I tweaked it and changed it, as I saw it fit for us, and condensed some categories down and do the work. You hear me talk about engage the field, do this, do it for yourself. You can take my word for it, or you can take this information. And if you want a copy of this client categorization playbook that I've got, just drop it in the comments. I'll send it to you. I went over all of it, but I'll send it to you in black and white. So you're like, okay, this is what these categories are. This is what this looks like. Okay. And if you'll start doing this, if you'll take control of your database and you will start treating it as the greatest asset outside of yourself, because if you take yourself out of the business, I mean, it's the business, depending on how you have it set up, but is the single greatest asset that you have. All the people that have worked with you, that refer you, that know, like, and trust you. And it's the power. It's the power of your business, especially in the service-based world. And it's really, I mean, and I don't care. I've seen it in roofing and HVAC, right? My world is primarily, real estate, mortgage, insurance, and financial services. And there's plenty of challenges inside of those industries. And let's not make it harder than it needs to be. And then we're out spending money on buying leads that are getting sold to 10 other different agents and all of the other things. And I'm not saying and I'm not throwing shade on other lead generation activities, but let's start with the lowest hanging fruit possible. Let's keep adding people as you're at networking events. And if you're setting this goal of add one person a day, that gets you into activity. If I'm somewhere having a conversation with somebody, knowing what to say, it's like, hey, if you had a question about insurance, or you had a friend or a family member that do you have an agent that you could ask questions about too? No? Okay, great. I'd love to be that agent. So when you have a question about insurance, just let me know. Hey, and go into it, because then I'm getting their information, because now I've become a trusted resource. I'm not trying to sell them. I'm just having a conversation. That's where everything starts. And so as I get their information and I get permission from them to stay in contact, hey, from time to time, I send out information that our clients find useful. I was wondering if it's like, hey, would you be interested in getting that information? Yeah. If other people find something useful, our brain tells us that it will probably be useful for me. It's psychology. This is what we have to understand. And instead of just hoping, and hope it's not a great strategy inside of your business, where it's like, well, I hope something happens. I got this database. And then we kid ourselves about the database, because we look in there and we've got, 3,000 people. But if you really went through it and you were honest with these three categories, you may have way, way less than that. And you know what? And that's okay. I would rather it be that way. If I were to take a 5,000 person database and get it to 500 of these that fit into these, especially these categories, then I'm like, now I'm spot on. Then I can go after that. I can set up a plan and communicate with these people, start bringing them value, doing a better job, other than just having 5,000 people sitting in a database that I might mail something to them once a year. That absolutely isn't probably going to do anything. And yes, will I get an occasional referral out of that? Sure. Like I said, I broke clocks twice a day. So you'll get something just because of the sheer amount of numbers. But I don't want to play like a numbers game. I want to play a more strategic game of like rigging the game, right? It's like Vegas. It's like a casino. It's like it favors the house. It always does. When you walk into the casino, you are playing against them. You're already behind, and they're going to let a few people win. Exactly. Because they want you to keep coming back. So rig the game. This is how you rig the game, is by creating this. It's easy to do. It's easier not to do, right? It's easier to go do something else. It's easier to go buy leads from Zillow and pay 30 or 40% or any other lead aggregate. I don't care, because every industry sells them. We all know that, that part of it. So this is a way that we take control of our business. So that's what I've got for you today. Obviously, you guys know I have a lot of passion around all of it, because I see it work in my business. I've seen it work in others that I coach and train with and have helped. And so I believe it'll work. It'll work in yours as well. So if you want a copy of that playbook that breaks this down, just comment down below, and I will